Marcus Davenport, CEO of the Modern Diner Corporation, was a man accustomed to the hushed halls of power and the sterile confines of posh offices perched high above bustling city streets. He wore success like a tailored suit, impeccably sharp and inherently distancing. Yet, behind his steady gaze and calculated business acumen simmered a longing for something real, something grounding that all his success somehow failed to provide. He often pondered the disconnect between the corporate decisions he made and the everyday lives his operations touched. It was a question that followed him like a shadow, especially when he found himself alone in the quiet expansiveness of his penthouse apartment, far removed from the vibrant streets below. This yearning for genuine insight led Marcus to a decision most would deem uncharacteristic. He resolved to descend from the tower of industry and touch the fabric of his enterprise on its most basic level. Disguised in simplicity, a plaid shirt, well-worn jeans, and a cap tugged down just so, he set out on foot through the urban maze, blending seamlessly with the crowd. Marcus felt a thrill he likened to adventure. Anonymity offered him an exhilarating new lease on observation, granting him access to the true pulse of his business. It was a Saturday, the city not yet fully awake, with the sun slipping over the horizon and casting long, lazy shadows along concrete sprawls. A crisp autumn wind compelled people to walk briskly, wrapped in their jackets and scarves. Marcus adopted their pace, relishing the bite of the fresh air on his face, far removed from the climate-controlled bubbles of his customary environments. His destination was one of his own, a modern diner tucked into a lively corner of the city, known for its eclectic mix of cultures and cuisines. As he approached his diner, he paused momentarily, stepping back to admire the facade. It was a small establishment compared to the grander locations, yet it carried the hallmark warmth and style the modern diner was renowned for. Large glass windows offered panoramas of diners enjoying their meals, content faces sheltered by the inviting structure from the morning chill outside. Marcus entered, met immediately by the soft hum of conversation interwoven with the clinking of cutlery and the aroma of fresh ground coffee. It was what he imagined warmth and comfort might smell like, a melange of browning toast, sizzling bacon, and doses of caffeine for early risers. Slipping smoothly into the queue that snaked its way toward the counter, Marcus became just another face in the crowd. His observations began there, cataloging the details his eyes landed upon: the cheery decor, the subtle glow of pendant lights dangling like golden drops above, and the diligent staff moving, orchestrating invisible dances of service behind the counter. The line crept forward, reluctant patrons checking their watches as busy mornings chased them onto timetables and destinations. Marcus immersed himself in the mundane melodrama, listening to snippets of dialogues as they lingered in the air like floating threads. Some were punctuated with weary tones, others with blossoming laughter, a spectrum of human life encapsulated within a diner at breakfast time. As he pondered the complexity of lives intersecting within these walls, two huddled figures caught his attention. They pressed into the line just behind him, two boys distinguished by youthful presence and a sense of urgency. Clad in jackets battling wear and tear, each seemed a mirror to the other, moving in tandem, expressions teetering between excitement and caution. The first boy, a bit older in appearance and bearing a watchful protectiveness in his eyes, whispered fiercely yet softly, as though words alone might shatter between them. Marcus, drawn as much by curiosity as by a starry-eyed recollection of his own youth, attuned his ears to the rich immediacy of their dialogue. Their conversation spun tales Marcus had never needed to weave for himself: shelters, sparse meals, fleeting hopes cemented only by each other's company. Discomfort pooled somewhere deep within Marcus, not for their plight, but for the stark realization of how distant his life decisions were from these realities. Every strategic meeting, every numerical success metric seemed a hollow echo in the face of such palpable human stories. "They say these diners are generous," the older brother coaxed, encouraging bravery in whispered assurances. "We might get something good today, just like Jack said." The name Jack flickered through Marcus's mind, igniting an association with a past marketing endeavor, a local charity initiative that worked tirelessly behind the scenes. While meant to uplift and extend the diner's reach into the community, the extent of its personal impact hadn't been visible from his office tower until now. A motley fleet of emotions surged within Marcus: empathy, a dash of regret, and an inexplicable warmth at being privy to this intimate moment. Their hopefulness evoked memories of his own youthful days when challenge was met not with hesitation but with a daring optimism born of dreams untethered by reality's harsh parameters. Finally reaching the front of the line, Marcus ordered with customary efficiency. Yet beneath his ordinary tone lay a burgeoning idea. After instructing the cashier on his own meal, he pointed subtly back to the boys with a gesture of generosity, a small flicker of change he hoped to ignite amid larger aspirations. "Add whatever those two want to my order," he said, his voice steady, eyes kind, experiencing for the first time the uncommon surrender of expecting nothing in return beyond a shared human moment. "Thank you, mister," came the soft chorus from the boys, gratitude resonating through the worry etching their features, if just for a moment, eased. In this unassuming diner, before two boys with hopeful eyes and an unfeigned tenacity, Marcus stood at the brink of a personal transformation, soon to spark a profound effect on his corporate world. It was an introduction into humility, a tentative step toward discovering the real heartbeat behind his professional shell. The chapters of his personal and professional life were on the brink of converging, forming what would become a legacy not just of success, but of purpose, empathy, and essential human connection. The morning was brisk, the kind of invigorating chill that left Marcus Davenport momentarily breathless as he stepped into the lively street scene that he had so often overlooked from boardroom windows. He moved with an eager stride, shedding the weight of corporate identity to embrace curious anonymity. In a plaid shirt and jeans, he navigated the vibrant urban tapestry, his destination clear in mind: a corner diner, one of many under the shiny umbrella of his influence at the Modern Diner Corporation. At this particular moment, Marcus felt keenly alive. The diner's chatter was a melodic backdrop, mingling seamlessly with the warm, inviting aroma of brewing coffee and frying bacon. He was emboldened by this sensory symphony, reminded of simpler pleasures long overshadowed by professional achievements and obligations. Slipping into the queue, he became part of a moving mosaic of patrons, each with their own tapestry of hopes and stories. Marcus's commitment to this endeavor was partly born of nostalgia, partly an attempt to weave his success into a richer, more tangible fabric. There was an incongruity he had long recognized between the numerical lifeblood flowing through spreadsheets and the lived realities that those numbers represented. Today was about reconciling those worlds, grounding himself. As the line inched forward, Marcus let his senses wander, sampling the atmosphere as if it were a new dish. The decor was charming in its understated elegance. Pendant lights cast soft glows across happy faces and tables populated with steaming mugs and ceramic plates. The staff moved with practiced ease, their fluid motions orchestrating a ballet of hospitality that he had rarely paused to appreciate before. But it wasn't only the ambience that awaited him within this ordinary setting. His attention was abruptly claimed by the soundscape around him, homing in on a conversation that threaded its way forward from just behind. It was not a dialogue filled with the usual brunch banter. It carried an undercurrent of vulnerability that immediately hooked Marcus's curiosity. Two young boys, standing quietly behind him, drew his interest with their subdued yet earnest voices. Their jackets were a mismatched assortment of hand-me-downs, patches clinging vulnerably to frayed seams against the autumnal bite. There was a palpable bond between them, an invisible line of solidarity stretched tight across shared adversities. "It's supposed to be really nice. Jack said they would help us out here," Marcus heard the older boy, probably in his early teens, mention encouragingly. His tone betrayed the kind of wisdom forged not through age, but through experience raw enough to age him regardless. Jack. The name registered in Marcus's mind like an echo from a distantly recalled conversation. It was connected to a project initiated months ago that didn't quite reach his desk routinely, a charity collaboration meant to extend goodwill through simple acts of kindness hosted within his restaurants. At the time, It had been a checkbox in a long list of community outreach items. Yet here it lived, an abstract notion given breath and body by these children embodying desperation turned hope. The younger brother, possibly no more than 10, leaned in closer, whispering something so soft it was nearly lost in the clatter surrounding them. Marcus found himself becoming an unintentional part of their story, the moment unfolding around him seamlessly integrating into his personal narrative in ways he'd never anticipated. We should ask, what's the worst that could happen? Tyler, the older boy, Marcus would later learn, said again, masking his nervousness behind a shield of feigned bravado. His nod toward the counter was a surrogate gesture for courage aimed at his brother, a silent script written in the language of necessity. As the queue dwindled, Marcus couldn't help but immerse himself deeper into their story. A thread of empathy spun tightly around him, a stark contrast to the usual detachment that punctuated his world of data and detached projections. Life was no longer just outlines on quarterly reports, it was flesh and blood, as evidenced by the boy's quiet persistence. Engulfed in his thoughts, Marcus almost forgot to move when the line nudged forward, signaling it was his turn. He placed his order with succinct efficiency, caught between the rituals of his societal station and the new personal resolve germinating in his heart. As he placed the order, Marcus's mind already constructed the next step. He would extend the goodwill he'd sanctioned silently in board meetings to this very personal moment of connection. With a deliberate pause, he leaned slightly toward the cashier, a young woman in a crisp diner uniform, her face a picture of patience. "I'd also like to cover whatever those two boys want," he added, voice calm but laden with unspoken layers of commitment. It wasn't a grand gesture as per his usual scale, but it was the most potent, grounded decision he had made in some time. The boys hesitated, surprise mingling with relief in their eyes, their voices rising together in a symphony of gratitude. "Thank you, mister," they chorused, the weight of their small world briefly lightening under the warmth of unexpected kindness. The moment lingered, a quiet communion shared over simple breakfast fare. For Marcus, this was something both profound and restorative. It was an introduction, a tangible step onto the path he now knew he must take, a journey wherein the faces and stories behind the metrics and margins would never be forgotten. In that bustling diner, amid the unassuming tapestry of humanity, Marcus Davenport began to sow the seeds of transformation, not just in his enterprise, but within himself. No longer could he see his contribution as mere corporate philanthropy, it was now deeply personal. Being present in their lives, even for a moment, had stitched new pieces into the quilt of his legacy, turning his wealth of resources into wealth of spirit, heart, and humanity. The cool morning air persisted as Marcus Davenport stood amidst the throng of patrons in his own establishment, his senses keenly attuned to the ambience he had so often read about but rarely experienced personally. His intention was not merely business underhandedness, but a genuine quest to touch the soul of his enterprise, to better align numbers on spreadsheets with the human experiences they represented. As Marcus stood in line, his ears pricked at the hushed, earnest voices of the two boys behind him. The older sibling, he deduced from snippets of their ongoing conversation, was responsible not only for himself, but also for tempering the naive optimism of the younger one. Bits of dialogue filtered through the bustling background noise, brightening his awareness with a sense of grounded immediacy. "Jack said they're nice enough to help us out here," Tyler reassured his younger brother, all confidence and half-contained desperation. His words were meant to be comforting, like a blanket in the chill, but halos of uncertainty lingered in his tone. Marcus's heart responded with a palpable pang. Jack was a name not simply confined to background memos, but a seed planted through the modern diner's charitable outreaches, a name synonymous with a concept that had scarcely grazed the foundational priorities in the boardroom. But here, incarnated in these hopeful children, it burgeoned into a pressing narrative that Marcus could no longer ignore. He observed unobtrusively, but noticed everything. The scuffed shoes that spoke of long mileage, the careful way they counted the few crumpled bills between them, creams of inexperience masking the sharper realities they had undoubtedly endured. The elder, Tyler, exuded a maturity that shouldn't belong to someone his age, forced by circumstance. Normally, Marcus dwelled in a sphere of influence dictated by market shares and competitive strategies, where lives like these were buried beneath analytics. Yet, here was life unfiltered, beautiful in its raw fragility. A whisper from the younger boy escaped in earnest curiosity. "Do you think we need more money?" His voice wove innocence with worry, a natural blend that tugged at Marcus's consciousness like an unrelenting tide. Tyler leaned more closely to his brother, Noah, protecting him with words as much as he could with presence. "We'll be okay. Remember what Jack said. We got to try before we know for sure." The words fell like soft rain, an assurance designed to brave looming uncertainties. The line edged forward. Marcus refocused, ordering his customary black coffee and omelet, a staple he rarely actually tasted amid conferences and calls. He was struck by the realization that in a world burning with endless decisions and faceless transactions, moments like these, simple, profound connections, were rarer than precious gems. They were the breaths of humanity that shaped the course of compassion. When it was time to pay, Marcus made what felt like an insignificant yet profound decision. Turning to the cashier, he signaled his intention to cover whatever the boys would choose. The words left his mouth coated with sincerity unknown in board meetings, an authentic call to tangible engagement. "Add whatever those two onto my bill," he instructed softly, the weight of his decision creating a warmth inside him he hadn't anticipated. The boys hesitated, the elder's eyes wide with disbelief, before understanding dawned, noticeably brightening his expression. Tyler stepped forward cautiously, disbelief mingling with gratitude. Marcus gave him a nod, attempting to bridge understanding through the eloquence of shared humanity. The order was placed with tentative aspiration, pancakes and warm cocoa, selected not merely for sustenance, but as tokens of momentary reprieve. Marcus absorbed the scene without intrusion. The cashier, understanding the silent exchange, enacted the order with brisk efficiency, a small conspirator in this quiet act of kindness. "Thank you, mister." Noah's voice trailed like a beam of sunlight piercing autumn drapery, threaded with gratefulness and relief. "You're welcome." "Enjoy," Marcus replied, his professional edge softened by genuine warmth. The exchange modulated the room's hum from clatter into something harmonious, a symphony rooted not in cacophony, but in empathic resonance. As Marcus found a seat, the boys settled at a nearby table, visibly animated. They wore expressions not merely of relief but of cautious optimism, dots of sunlight in their otherwise overcast existence. Emboldened by the simplicity of this engagement, Marcus reflected on the multitude of lives brushed aside in the manicured world of enterprise. It struck him that, while he lived among the upper echelons of power, he'd rarely encountered the breathless energies of youthful struggle firsthand, these quietly courageous battlegrounds. He listened from a respectful distance as Tyler expertly divided the pancakes, a taciturn leader ensuring equity in their small republic. Tales of survival peppered their dialogue as they shared smiles now illuminated by the genuine joy of fleeting security. The seed of transformation had taken root, a resolve in Marcus to resurrect authenticity within his work, ensuring that the metrics housed in binary code would embody substantial realities, fostering communities that mirrored the dreams his establishments claimed to serve. Finishing his meal, Marcus felt a departure from his introspective murk. That morning in the diner was a gentle indictment of caution against settling for a legacy built solely on financial success. Instead, it was a heartfelt call to weave a broader tapestry, one rich with diversity, anchored in compassion, elevating those who navigated difficulties beyond one's boardroom horizon. In sowing the seeds of change from compassion, Marcus Davenport found not only hope for his business, but also redemption within his soul, resonating profoundly beyond profit margins. As he left, he carried the inspiration bestowed upon him, the promise of fortified endeavors intertwining corporate agility with vulnerable humanity, a mosaic woven by brave whispers of reality from two unassuming boys and the quiet, extraordinary morning they had shared. Marcus remained in line, tapping his foot idly on the tiled floor, the rhythm guided by the ambient noise of clattering dishware and the gentle hum of conversation. Yet, it was the whispered dialogue behind him that held his attention, a soft, earnest exchange between the two young boys. Through the vibrant busyness of the restaurant, their words stood out like a poignant melody cutting through static. He could sense, even without turning, the desperation fused with hope in Tyler's voice as he softly reassured his younger brother, Noah. "Jack said they're nice enough to help us out here," Tyler insisted, his words floating in the air like a fragile lifeline cast into a sea of uncertainty. Marcus imagined Tyler standing there with a quiet dignity, maturing too soon, the weight of his responsibility wrapped around his small shoulders like a cloak too heavy for his years. Marcus's mind drifted to Jack, a name he'd once encountered among the notes on community outreach initiatives his company sponsored. Jack, it seemed, served as an embodiment of his company's charitable efforts, a figure who personified kindness in practice, beyond theoretical corporate social responsibility lines in their annual report. Marcus felt a swell of inexplicable pride mixed with urgency as he realized what those initiatives meant here, now, in struggling lives where hope was as vital as food. The boys, oblivious to Marcus's growing attention, were entirely absorbed in their discussion. He could almost feel the trembling in their voices, the older brother's constant reassurance, the younger's hesitant curiosity threading through their conversation like a gentle undersong. Noah's question came, soft and unguarded. "Do you think we need more money?" Tyler leaned closer to Noah, confidence tinged with an unfaltering sense of guardianship. "We'll be okay. Remember what Jack said. We've got to try before we know for sure." His simple insistence resonated profoundly with Marcus, a stark contrast to meetings he attended, filled with prognostications based on exhaustive data and analysis. Here, decisions leaned on hope and brotherly faith, priceless commodities in their own right, cemented by human experience rather than market predictions. The line diminished, each step bringing Marcus closer to the counter and nearer to a decision he had not foreseen. He ordered his usual with a practiced ease, the kind of habitual action that once anchored his otherwise hectic routines. But today was different. Influenced by the sincerity in Tyler and Noah's plight, the raw humanity of their situation, Marcus's decision crystallized. With a sincere look toward the cashier, Marcus moved to include the boys' order with his own. "Add whatever those two want to my bill," he said, deliberation giving his voice a clarity that arrived unexpectedly and not without the poignant weight of responsibility and kindness. The cashier, a young woman with eyes that hinted at her own burdens, nodded, her brisk efficiency serving as a silent agreement with the subtle compassion threading through Marcus's gesture. Behind him, he sensed the abrupt pause of astonishment, as if the simple act of benevolence had reached across time and struck a reverberating chord. The boys hesitated, their initial reticence giving way to an overwhelming gratitude. Tyler stepped forward, uncertainty dissolving into a tentative smile filled with incredulity turned to joy. It was a moment of connection untainted by ulterior motives or contrived altruism, just a man, two boys, and an invisible bridge spanning their realities. "Thank you, Mr." Noah's voice rang pure and bright, a reflection of the heartfelt wonder that surged through his very being, transforming the mundane morning into an extraordinary turning point. "You're welcome." "Enjoy," Marcus replied softly, his usual corporate veneer stripped away, leaving only a man speaking to children with an unadulterated warmth. The boys ordered pancakes and hot cocoa, small comforts of warmth and taste that acted as their tiny anchors in a sometimes unforgiving world. Marcus watched them navigate their gratitude-laden choice, the cashier seamlessly becoming a part of this unspoken pact as she rang up the order with a knowing smile. Settling at a table near Marcus, the boys exuded an ease not present before, their laughter mingling with the diner's clamor, a modest symphony performing in perfect harmony with their unexpected reprieve. Marcus, though witnessing from a respectful distance, felt their joy resonate within him. Tyler broke the pancakes with the precision of a leader older than his years, ensuring even distribution, a tactical division meant to stave off hunger while maintaining fairness. Their conversation flowed around survival stories, illusions of normalcy cast in hopes and dreams, illuminating the brightness that survived amidst their challenges. As Marcus watched, the boys' shared tales of resilience echoed the silent persistence he saw often in graphs and trends, only this time, they conveyed stories far richer and more essential than any numerical data could capture. These moments, so often ignored or overlooked in the rarefied air of corporate strategy meetings, now felt crucial, tangible, infused with the vibrancy of life unchained from statistics. The breakfast began to ebb in tandem with their storytelling, and as the plates emptied, Marcus found himself inwardly transformed. The fleeting companionship with the boys had become a clarion call for deeper engagement, not only in his life's work, but in all its interconnected facets that demanded a tapestry woven from genuine human connections and empathy. Rising to leave, he understood the subtle yet impactful shift this experience had cultivated within him. It wasn't merely about fostering redemption or embodying generosity for its own sake. It was recognizing the potent ability of moments like these to inspire an enduring legacy woven into the very fabric of his business model. With renewed purpose, Marcus departed the diner, a figure in a quiet but profound transformation, determined to mirror the hope and strength shared by two brave boys that morning. As Marcus stepped back into the brisk air, the realization unfurled within him like a banner lifting proudly in the wind. While numbers and influence composed the scaffolding of his empire, it was the human stories, beautifully real and unpredictably precious, that would henceforth impart it a soul. With resolve etched into his stride, he embraced the path ahead, a journey now forever altered by the earnest whispers and unwavering courage of young lives he had the honor to encounter. After settling into an unassuming booth, Marcus watched as Tyler and Noah slid into one adjacent to him. Their youthful chatter was intermittently subdued by large bites of pancake, each morsel acting like a buoy, lifting them momentarily above the undercurrents of uncertainty that marked their lives. The tender lounge of the booth seemed to hold them gently as the world resumed its busy bustle around them. Tyler's face was a map of intent concentration and brotherly foresight. He tore into his pancake with care, always ensuring equal portions for himself and Noah. The syrup pooled in the shallow curve of the plate, a rich lake from which both brothers drew sustenance and solace. It struck Marcus how adeptly Tyler negotiated his dual roles, as both a child and a protector. Noah, with his messy hair peeking out from beneath the wool hat, seemed less worried about the precision of their shared meal, more absorbed by the fleeting reprieve it provided. "Does syrup make pancakes better, Ty?" Noah asked, his eyes wide with the sincereness only childhood can claim. "Yeah, course it does," Tyler replied with a mock-serious tone that belied his age. "Mom used to say it makes them sweet, like us." His smile was soft but firm, an embodiment of memories preserved and cherished. Marcus listened intently, his heart entwined with an invisible thread trailing from their laughter back to his own past. Once, he too had shared simple meals under a mother's tender watch, unaware that these small acts of warmth formed the underpinnings of larger dreams and ambitions. "Do you think Jack was here today?" Noah's voice quivered slightly, pulling Marcus back from his reverie. It was a genuine question, woven with hope and admiration for the man who had embodied kindness in their frayed lives. Tyler paused, pondering the magic this Jack seemed to carry, both a mentor and a beacon. "Maybe he was," Tyler mused, the words quietly confident. "I mean, someone helped us today. Maybe it was Jack's spirit looking out." The idea touched Marcus deeply, the notion of kindness unfurling its reach, transcending the visible and tangible, to inspire a legacy of generosity that manifested in unexpected ways. Reflecting on Jack's influence, Marcus's thoughts trace back to his company's initial outreach vision, designed as theoretical constructs, often glossed over during corporate symposiums and executive summaries. Today, woven through Tyler and Noah's exchanges, those plans materialized into vivid reality. Here was evidence of profound impact, not just quantified in data, but qualified by lived human connections and aspirations. Pushing his coffee cup slightly to the side, Marcus found himself struck by the richness of the narrative resonating at the boys' table. From the initial bite of pancakes to the laughter that followed, their breakfast was alive, a simple act magnified by the shared heartbeat of hope and survival. "So, Noah," Tyler began, eyeing the few fragments on his plate, "what's the first thing you'd do if you had everything you wanted?" Noah stopped mid-chew, considering the vast possibilities stretched beyond their current horizon. After a moment, his eyes sparkled with a light pure and unencumbered by the weight they carried. "I'd get a house for us. A big one," he declared, as if proclaiming war on hardship itself, "with a room where you could hear the rain." Tyler laughed, the sound tinged with the unexpected poignancy of Noah's simple wish, an innocent dream, shielded from life's harsher realities. "Yeah," Tyler nodded, a hint of wistfulness curling his lips. "That sounds nice." Sitting across from them, Marcus felt the tug of an era long past, where dreams were similarly untainted by the pragmatic armor that adulthood often forces upon youthful optimism. He realized he was tapping into a reservoir of empathy sharpened, not dulled, by his years at the helm of an industry more associated with margins than meanings. They returned to their pancakes, savoring each bite as though stamping love notes onto blank pages. To a casual observer, this scene, two boys dining with carefree chatter, was perhaps run-of-the-mill. To Marcus, it was transformative. Marcus, almost in reflex, found himself recollecting the numbers dominating board meeting after board meeting, the spreadsheets and slides stipulating growth yet devoid of depth. He now saw these figures subtly reshaping into the untold stories aggregate statistics rarely represented. Within these lines, he began drafting a poem of reform, one driven by a newly kindled yearning to reframe success beyond the quantifiable. Noah caught his eye, offering a cheerful wave unseen by Tyler, and Marcus reciprocated, the gesture binding them in a silent pact of acknowledgement and gratitude. The meal ebbed as all good things tend to do, yet their shared time solidified something within Marcus, inspired by the sincere interactions and tacit acceptance between their tables. The boys stood, eager to venture back into the embrace of their day. Tyler offered a nod, a tacit acknowledgement of the bridge Marcus had built with them over this morning's breakfast. Marcus remained, observing their exit, underscored by the clarity this encounter had infused into his personal tapestry. Here, he was afforded a rare glimpse into a renewed aspiration, crafting his business not solely as an enterprise, but as a vital participant orchestrating change and opportunity. Flourishing with newfound intent, he rose to his feet, leaving the diner both cloaked and unmasked, stepping once more into the brisk outside air. His march back into the world was assured by insights gained, his resolve stoked by the simplicity and grace of two small boys' determination and dignity. In the end, Marcus understood this truth with the brilliance of a newfound morning sun. It was not just about serving food, it was about nourishing the soul of a community. And as he melded with the city's pulse, he carried forward a vision to codify what truly mattered, not just within the diner walls, but across the expanse of lives it touched. The whispers and courage of the young had transformed into a symphony, guiding him down a path where empathy and enterprise walk hand in hand, an embodiment of the redemptive arc he had embarked upon. As Marcus nestled into the booth, he couldn't help but draw a parallel between the diner's solidity and the fragile safety net it extended to patrons like the two boys he watched. Tyler and Noah had settled into the adjacent booth like animated portraits, dynamic in their energy, yet stilled by the world's harsh realities. Tyler, with his honest expression and deft hands rationing out their shared pancakes, seemed at once a child guarding innocence and a young adult burdened by circumstance. As he divided a stack soaked in syrup, golden rivulets pooling like cherished treasure captured in the plate's curve, each motion was imbued with the gravitas of a caretaker, an unrecognized but vital role he played for Noah. The precision with which Tyler portioned out each bite reflected the depth of his brotherly commitment, woven from threads of sacrifice and love. Noah, more whimsical, met this sibling care with simple joy. He bounced slightly in his seat, the wool hat barely containing his untamed hair, and he gazed at Tyler as if the breakfast were otherworldly. His question about the syrup was delivered with an earnestness that mirrored a call from Marcus's past, innocence preserved against time's encroachments. As the diner's symphony continued, a tapestry of clinking flatware and softly spoken words, Marcus felt a poignant resonance in the boys' voices. Their laughter and exchanges braided into a narrative far richer than anything crafted in his distant boardrooms. This was life raw with promise and resilience, a potent reminder of what his corporate endeavors originally aspired to nourish. The mention of Jack, a benefactor in the boys' lives, turned the conversation toward tales of hope and unlikely heroism. Jack, a guardian in spirit if not present in body, represented to them what Marcus once imagined his company might become, a source of sustenance and change surpassing mere profitability. Listening to the determination seated in Tyler's voice was revelatory. Marcus understood, perhaps for the first time, that his legacy could harbor a weight beyond financial success, a weight defined by dreams nurtured into reality and lives imbued with renewed promise. The abstract notions he'd only theoretically endorsed had materialized into tangible warmth before him. As Tyler guided Noah through visions of a future painted with certainty, Marcus's heart swelled in response. He admired their dynamic. Their shared dreamscape transcended survival, reaching for a home, a sanctuary defined by light and laughter where they could pause and listen to the rain's gentle symphony. Noah's innocent proclamation reverberated like prophecy, belying the simplicity masked by profound depth. "I'd get a house for us. A big one, with a room where you could hear the rain." The words carried an emotional weight so potent that Marcus envisioned the rain, a clarion call of solitude and serenity weaving through walls as a renewed call to rebuild from within. Tyler's soft laughter, tinged with hope's fragility, mingled with the scent of syrup and coffee hovering in the autumn air. It was a blend of scents and sounds that transcended seasons, prompting Marcus to reflect on the cyclicality of growth and renewal, a perpetual dance between shadows and light, challenges and triumphs. Marcus found himself revisiting the spreadsheets that governed his waking hours, the austere columns which, until now, had failed to capture the vibrancy of life he encountered within this diner. His perception of these frameworks shifted, where before he saw numbers rigid and fixed, now he perceived pathways for change. As breakfast waned, pancakes dwindling, conversation ebbing, Marcus felt the transformation cemented within. Numbers transforming into narratives, each fragment a piece of potentiality, waiting to be drawn into broader initiatives by those willing to see beyond the veil. Understanding and clarity crystallized as the boys bent to their final bites, Noah casting a playful look over his shoulder. His gaze connected with Marcus's, an unscripted exchange that transcended age and affiliations. It was an acceptance, a glad declaration of shared humanism that transcended breakfast crumbs and disposable cutlery. With an unspoken understanding, Tyler nodded gratefully to Marcus, acknowledging implicitly the bridge between them that had been built through a meal, an unanticipated meeting of worlds, and newfound possibilities. The boys' departure signaled an endpoint to their shared morning, but Marcus felt the imprint of their presence deeply. As they meandered into the day, jackets flapping like wings, Marcus knew something indispensable lingered. He remained seated, envisaging the dialogues that awaited him back at his corporate enclave. No longer would discussions focus solely on outputs measured in currency or rentability. Rather, they would encompass the nurturing potential of enterprise to infuse life with meaning, ambitions with humanity. Energized by this newfound clarity, Marcus rose from the booth, a place of encounter and epiphany, and stepped once more into the bustling world. The city pulsed around him, crisp and invigorating, encompassing his steps with rhythms punctuated by renewed purpose. His journey back to the office was more than a return to routine. It was a reintegration with purpose, a mission rekindled by the wisdom gleaned from the youngest of mentors. As he traversed streets alive with motion and mystery, Marcus felt anchored by a conviction that was both personal and expansive, one willing harmony and faith into the spaces created between commerce and community. This exchange had rewritten the script of his life's narrative, refining the contours of his impact, from profit margins alone to a richer tapestry spun from the delicate fibers of compassion and courage. In these dwellings his vision now dwelled, resolved to craft meaning beyond mere sustenance. For Marcus Davenport, the CEO who had gone undercover, it was enough to recognize the undeniable truth that intertwined every life his company touched. Nourishment extended not just to the body, but to the soul enshrined in community. Marcus Davenport navigated gleaming hallways lined with glass and steel, the architecture echoing intimidation and power. But today, the boardroom he entered felt charged with possibility, a stark contrast to its usual austere ambience. More than a mere habitat for suits and ties, it was to become the birthplace of change, a notion that had crystallized within Marcus during that serendipitous morning at the diner. The room's panoramic windows framed a restless cityscape below, bustling and vibrant, a reflection of the urban sprawl he had wandered only hours earlier. Shuffling his notes, Marcus's thoughts flitted back to Tyler and Noah, their youthful faces emblazoned with resilience and unwitting wisdom. He could see their animated expressions in the faces of his audience as he prepared to recalibrate the compass guiding his company. "We'll begin the meeting with an unusual agenda today," Marcus announced, his voice steady yet infused with an undercurrent of fervor. The board members exchanged curious glances, their skeptical expressions softened by the sincerity etched into Marcus's demeanor. Our conversation pivots on a deceptively simple question. "What is our legacy?" he continued, pacing leisurely, as if dialoguing with friends rather than colleagues. It was a skill he'd honed over years, yet now it carried an authentic gravity that lent his words further weight. "What defines us beyond profits and quarterly reports?" Marcus asked, drawing the collective attention of the room. It was a question loaded with subtext, tingling with the urgency of realigning priorities, a concept he was still making sense of himself. "Earlier today, I had a chance meeting with two young boys, Tyler and Noah, at one of our diners," Marcus recounted. "Their stories, their realities struck a chord. While they came to our diner driven by need, I left with invaluable insights about purpose and community." Intrigue hooked the room, drawing each participant's gaze deeper into Marcus's narrative. The juxtaposition of corporate hierarchy with raw human experience was a captivating departure from routine analytics, unfolding like an uncharted map. "They made me realize that our diners can and should be more than mere stops for sustenance. They should be sanctuaries, places where people find not just meals but hope." Marcus paused, letting the reverberation of his words settle into the newly charged atmosphere. A hand shot up. It was Diana, a shrewd analyst infamous for her incisive appraisals. Her voice, though often challenging, was grounded in respect. "Are you suggesting a shift in our business model? How do we quantify hope and sanctuary in a balance sheet?" Marcus nodded, expected this exact critique, and responded with poise. "We know the metrics of engagement, customer loyalty, foot traffic, satisfaction indices, they're all rooted in the human experience. If we invest in our communities, those metrics will reflect it," he insisted, passion bleeding into logic. He felt the rising momentum in the room, the slight nods, the scribbles on notepads, as he laid out his vision. Initiatives like those born from our diner experience, championing local needs, drawing underprivileged demographics into our story. By embedding social responsibility into our business ethos, we create a larger tapestry that benefits everyone. The presentation took on a life of its own, weaving narratives threaded with community involvement and engagement, from local art collaborations to partnerships with shelters. Marcus could see his vision dance in their eyes, contagious in its optimism. Charles, the CFO, a man whose life often orbited around monetary margins, leaned forward, his brows knitted in contemplative assent. "How do you propose to fund these initiatives without affecting our bottom line too heavily?" he queried, his hands steepled thoughtfully. "By reevaluating our priorities, perhaps look at the marketing budgets, or areas that see excess but minimal returns, Marcus ventured, acknowledging the financial contours with a pragmatic nod. We're looking at a long-term strategy with community dividends that we cannot underestimate. A thoughtful murmur percolated through the boardroom, Marcus's fervor reverberating in silent agreements, cautious optimism. Each member, albeit from varied strata of the corporate ladder, found resonance in his call for a paradigm shift, their social consciousness awakening like seeds finding light. In that moment, the boardroom transformed. It was no longer just a venue for debates over fiscal forecasts or strategic expansions. It became the cradle for an evolving corporate conscience. They were authors of a narrative that was shifting to foreground humanity amid the maelstrom of stock indices and consumer data. By the time the meeting concluded, Marcus felt a glowing intensity within his colleagues, a reflection born from the transformative power of shared vision. It was the kind of collective epiphany that left indelible marks not only on their business, but on their souls. The boardroom emptied with a newfound buoyancy, the footsteps of colleagues echoing a subtle vibrancy, hinting at the potential for unsuspected unity. Yet, Marcus remained, savoring the stillness as he perched by the window, reflecting on the city below. In that reflective solitude, he thought of Tyler and Noah once more, young arbiters of change, their impact rippling beyond their knowledge into places they might never see. The boys' hopes had sparked a broader horizon within the Modern Diner Corporation, allowing Marcus to envision his company as a living tapestry of life and business, one striving to bridge divides and foster communities. As day waned, the city's lights flickered vibrant against the growing dusk, casting anew the commitment Marcus had woven into the company's future. It was an endeavor not just bound by regulations or fiscal mandates, but guided by the heart, a heartfelt ambition to shape a world where success told tales beyond mere sustenance, embracing the fuller spectrum of life. This was Marcus's newfound legacy, a legacy illuminated not by boardroom ceilings alone, but buoyed by the laughter and dreams of little brothers dreaming of rainy-day sanctuaries. The gleaming hallways of the Modern Diner Corporation's headquarters echoed with Marcus Davenport's footsteps, each strike resonant against the polished marble floors as he approached a room that would serve as the birthplace of profound change. The boardroom, familiar yet now imbued with anticipation, framed a sprawling cityscape outside its panoramic windows, a tapestry of life vivid and complex, much like the new vision unfolding in Marcus's mind. Marcus entered, clutching a neat stack of notes, each page unfurling the insights born from his poignant morning at the diner. As the members of the board settled in, their customary gravitas mingled with the novel energy Marcus brought with him. Instead of the usual slide deck or fiscal chart, Marcus possessed a story, raw and transformative. With a nod to begin, Marcus leaned into the space where business met humanity. "We'll start today with an unusual agenda," he declared, his voice firm yet infused with a mystery that cut through routine anticipation, sparking intrigue. His colleagues exchanged looks underpinned by curiosity. This was a departure from the usual, and they sensed it was not to be ignored. Marcus began, "What is our legacies?" The question lingered before them, glistening with infinite potential and stirring echoes of deeper reflection. What defines us beyond quarterly profits and financial margins? He paced gently along the breadth of the room, inviting contemplation not just of business acumen but of soul-searching authenticity. His path crossed familiar eyes, now watchful. Unversed in the session, he was unraveling. "Earlier today, I met two young boys at a diner, Tyler and Noah. Their stories resonated profoundly," he shared candidly. The silence that followed was resolute, drawing the room's collective attention like the sharpening of focus through adjusting lenses. The room's attention was now unswervingly his. Marcus shared the boys' tale succinctly, but with vivid clarity, of homelessness, resilience, and unintended impacts. Hearing of lives sustained in part by chance generosity transformed their understanding of the world beyond these walls. It was not merely hospitality, it was hope encapsulated in simple acts of kindness, underscored by the boys' resolute belief in better days. "They made me realize," Marcus continued, "our diners should be more than mere stops for sustenance. We have the capacity, and therefore the responsibility, to be sanctuaries. The weight of his words found purchase in the attentive silence. Places where meals and hope coexist. Diana's hand rose decisively, her sharp analytical mind probing for tangible substance beneath this idealism. Are you suggesting a shift in our business model? How do you quantify something like hope and sanctuary in a balance sheet? Her tone, often challenging, was tempered with curiosity. Marcus anticipated this, responding with poised assurance. We already measure engagement, customer loyalty, foot traffic, satisfaction ratings. They're all deeply human metrics. By investing in the communities that surround us, these metrics will not only reflect but enhance our foundational values. His words resonated, notes scratched earnestly onto notebooks, and oral attention sustained by the novel integration of finances with philosophy. Marcus laid out his vision with methodical elegance, a schematic woven with robust partnerships, local engagements, uplift projects extending hands towards those society inadvertently left behind. Charles, the company's financially astute CFO, leaned forward, his skepticism tempered by genuine inquiry. And how do you propose we fund these initiatives so our bottom line isn't compromised? With a nod, Marcus addressed the inquiry head-on, recognizing the dialectic necessary to refine his vision. By reevaluating our priorities, he explained, perhaps the marketing budgets or areas where investments yield minimal returns can be realigned. It's a long-term strategy whose dividends are societal as well as fiscal. Marcus spoke passionately, his proposal a carefully constructed symbiosis of altruistic endeavor and corporate survival. The room's ambience shifted almost imperceptibly from guarded consideration to positive intrigue, a theatrical play of flickering possibility across the spectrum of faces convened. A thoughtful murmur circulated, the air buzzing with cautious optimism, moving in step with Marcus's driven eloquence. Each board member, irrespective of their passage within the corporate hierarchy, discovered a personal resonance within his call for transformation, their social consciousness evolving, beckoned by a nascent sense of unity. Marcus's narrative, entwining lived experience with corporate ethos, took root as the room collectively envisioned a future where their corporations not only served shareholders but weaved seamlessly into the societal fabric. A future where stock indices and consumer data shared space with dreams and aspirations, this harmonizing of heart and commerce, unprecedented yet not unwelcome. As discourse concluded, Marcus absorbed the collective epiphany with quiet satisfaction. His colleagues, each stepping into the tentative yet promising landscape of shared purpose, ventured forth with new resolve, their presence emanating a lighter, buoyant step that echoed in the room's rafters long after they departed. In the rarefied silence, Marcus lingered, reflecting beside the expansive windows. The city's multifaceted life sprawled before him, a ceaseless ocean of stories, each wave carrying tales like Tyler and Noah's, reverberating with the indelible mark of a single encounter redefining legacies. In solitude, Marcus felt the promise clutched within this personal journey, knowing that the spark ignited by two young boys had precipitated ripples within his company that extended far beyond anticipated confines. What began as a humble act of kindness had evolved into a tapestry of intent, a commitment held not only in glossy brochures or projections, but in the living world. As evening descended, trades of twilight painted his future across the skyline, a canvas where success and compassion intertwined. This newfound legacy was not merely a corporate strategy, but a living aspiration, one that nurtured lives within and beyond the reaches of his corporation's walls, framing aspirations where sustenance embraced an unwavering soul. Months after Marcus's transformative experience at the Modern Diner, an invitation arrived that bore the seal of Fort Unity Shelter, the place where Tyler and Noah found refuge. The event was a celebration of community spirit and resilience, a testament to the efforts made by countless hands, hearts, and now, a corporation with newly awakened humanity. The sun hung low in the sky as Marcus made his way to the shelter. Autumn leaves whirled around him, each gust of wind carving paths through their vibrant hues. With every step, he felt the weight of the journey that had begun on that cold morning at the diner and rippled into corporate boardrooms filled with power brokers who, much like him, had learned to see beyond black and white spreadsheets. He was greeted with a warmth that made stones turn to feathers, his presence welcomed by volunteers whose faces were beacons of genuine appreciation. The interior of the shelter was bustling with joyful preparation, tables lined with colorful tablecloths, plates ready for a communal feast. It was a mosaic of joy and relief, punctuated by bursts of laughter and snippets of encouraging conversation. Marcus Davenport, an amiable voice called, drawing Marcus's attention to a charismatic figure amid the organized whirlwind. It was Jack, the shelter's director, and the one who had reached out to Marcus. They shook hands, Jack's grip firm and resonant of sincerity. His eyes, bright with gratitude, told stories unspoken. "Thank you for coming," Jack said, ushering Marcus towards the stage erected for the occasion. "Your efforts through the diner's new community initiatives have made a world of difference to so many here." Marcus acknowledged the words with humility, finding himself stirred by the gamut of emotions swirling in and around the shelter. "Seeing it all in action is more fulfilling than any company report or stock summary," he replied, his gaze taking in the bustle that hinted at a simpler, profound contentment. Marcus spotted Tyler and Noah amidst a cluster of children. They wore new winter coats, gifts from donations funneled through the diner's network, each boy with an energy that belied the tribulations they had endured. For Marcus, those coats were symbols, stitched together with threads of renewed hope and stability. "Marcus." Tyler's voice sliced through the ambient chatter as he spotted Marcus. He bounded over, Noah trailing close behind, both boys radiating an infectious enthusiasm that pulled Marcus deeper into the celebratory atmosphere. "Thank you for everything," Tyler declared, hugging Marcus with a spontaneity that obliterated formalities. "We heard from Jack how you've helped the shelter." Marcus hugged back, feeling the weight of Tyler's gratitude sink into his core, solidifying his resolve to sustain the programs initiated. "You and Noah are the reason we're making these changes." "You reminded me of what's truly important," Marcus replied, his words carrying a sincerity that transformed them into a sacred promise. Jack approached with a smile, extending an invitation for Marcus to address the gathering. As Marcus took the makeshift stage, he looked out upon the gathered assembly, a diverse congregation of shelter residents, donors, volunteers, and community leaders. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus began, the microphone amplifying his voice across the hall. "Tonight we celebrate the fabric of our community, the resilience, generosity, and shared responsibility that bind us all." His words wove their way through the crowd, each syllable tilting hearts towards reflection. "I've learned much from this journey, a lesson of how intertwined our lives truly are. When we support one another, when businesses, individuals, and communities unite, we build sanctuaries, not just physical shelters but spaces of hope, transitions, and futures." The crowd's response was a ripple of applause, grounded not only in appreciation but in shared vision, a collective nod towards a newly minted path. Marcus continued, "I am grateful to witness our diners play a more active role in this shared mission. It's an honor to contribute to such resilience and courage." As his speech concluded, Marcus moved amongst the attendees, sharing anecdotes, laughter, and pledges of continued support. Tyler and Noah were never far from his side, their presence a reminder of the personal stake every business could, and perhaps should, have in its community. Later, as dusk enveloped the city, a ceremony unfolded where the shelter recognized pivotal contributors. The stage, understated yet profound, became a pedestal of gratitude. Marcus stood alongside shelter staff and volunteers, receiving recognition not as a detached CEO, but as a committed community member. Under the golden hue of twilight, with warm farewells echoing in the air, Marcus experienced a reflection of his true legacy, a union of commerce and compassion, potential repurposed into genuine human connection. He departed the shelter amidst the lingering glow of lanterns lining the exit, each flickering light a beacon of stories yet to be written, a narrative fueled by everyday heroes continuing the ripple he had set in motion. As Marcus navigated the city's streets on his way back, with every shadow and whisper of wind amplifying the bustling life around him, he saw not just a cityscape, but a community living its heart. His past ambitions had conspired to forge an empire, yet today, while navigating this legacy of empathy, he discovered something far more enduring than the transformative power of profits. It was the eternal influence of aware stewardship drawn from fragile humanity, stitched together one compassionate act at a time. In that quietude, Marcus smiled to himself, knowing the purpose was far from completed, the horizon stretching expansively before him, a reminder that his role as a caretaker had only just begun. Months after Marcus's transformative experience at the Modern Diner, an invitation arrived that bore the seal of Fort Unity Shelter, the place where Tyler and Noah found refuge. The event was a celebration of community spirit and resilience, a testament to the efforts made by countless hands, hearts, and now, a corporation with newly awakened humanity. The sun hung low in the sky as Marcus made his way to the shelter. Autumn leaves whirled around him, each gust of wind carving paths through their vibrant hues. With every step, he felt the weight of the journey that had begun on that cold morning at the diner and rippled into corporate boardrooms filled with power brokers who, much like him, had learned to see beyond black and white spreadsheets. He was greeted with a warmth that made stones turn to feathers, his presence welcomed by volunteers whose faces were beacons of genuine appreciation. The interior of the shelter was bustling with joyful preparation, tables lined with colorful tablecloths, plates ready for a communal feast. It was a mosaic of joy and relief, punctuated by bursts of laughter and snippets of encouraging conversation. Marcus Davenport, an amiable voice called, drawing Marcus's attention to a charismatic figure amid the organized whirlwind. It was Jack, the shelter's director, and the one who had reached out to Marcus. They shook hands, Jack's grip firm and resonant of sincerity. His eyes, bright with gratitude, told stories unspoken. "Thank you for coming," Jack said, ushering Marcus towards the stage erected for the occasion. "Your efforts through the diner's new community initiatives have made a world of difference to so many here." Marcus acknowledged the words with humility, finding himself stirred by the gamut of emotions swirling in and around the shelter. "Seeing it all in action is more fulfilling than any company report or stock summary," he replied, his gaze taking in the bustle that hinted at a simpler, profound contentment. Marcus spotted Tyler and Noah amidst a cluster of children. They wore new winter coats, gifts from donations funneled through the diner's network, each boy with an energy that belied the tribulations they had endured. For Marcus, those coats were symbols, stitched together with threads of renewed hope and stability. "Marcus." Tyler's voice sliced through the ambient chatter as he spotted Marcus. He bounded over, Noah trailing close behind, both boys radiating an infectious enthusiasm that pulled Marcus deeper into the celebratory atmosphere. "Thank you for everything," Tyler declared, hugging Marcus with a spontaneity that obliterated formalities. "We heard from Jack how you've helped the shelter." Marcus hugged back, feeling the weight of Tyler's gratitude sink into his core, solidifying his resolve to sustain the programs initiated. "You and Noah are the reason we're making these changes." "You reminded me of what's truly important," Marcus replied, his words carrying a sincerity that transformed them into a sacred promise. Jack approached with a smile, extending an invitation for Marcus to address the gathering. As Marcus took the makeshift stage, he looked out upon the gathered assembly, a diverse congregation of shelter residents, donors, volunteers, and community leaders. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus began, the microphone amplifying his voice across the hall. "Tonight we celebrate the fabric of our community, the resilience, generosity, and shared responsibility that bind us all." His words wove their way through the crowd, each syllable tilting hearts towards reflection. "I've learned much from this journey, a lesson of how intertwined our lives truly are. When we support one another, when businesses, individuals, and communities unite, we build sanctuaries, Not just physical shelters, but spaces of hope, transitions, and futures. The crowd's response was a ripple of applause, grounded not only in appreciation but in shared vision, a collective nod towards a newly minted path. Marcus continued, I am grateful to witness our diners play a more active role in this shared mission. It's an honor to contribute to such resilience and courage. As his speech concluded, Marcus moved amongst the attendees, sharing anecdotes, laughter, and pledges of continued support. Tyler and Noah were never far from his side, their presence a reminder of the personal stake every business could, and perhaps should, have in its community. Later, as dusk enveloped the city, a ceremony unfolded where the shelter recognized pivotal contributors. The stage, understated yet profound, became a pedestal of gratitude. Marcus stood alongside shelter staff and volunteers, receiving recognition not as a detached CEO, but as a committed community member. Under the golden hue of twilight, with warm farewells echoing in the air, Marcus experienced a reflection of his true legacy, a union of commerce and compassion, potential repurposed into genuine human connection. He departed the shelter amidst the lingering glow of lanterns lining the exit, each flickering light a beacon of stories yet to be written, a narrative fueled by everyday heroes continuing the ripple he had set in motion. As Marcus navigated the city's streets on his way back, every shadow and whisper of wind amplified the bustling life around him. He saw not just a cityscape, but a community living its heart. His past ambitions had conspired to forge an empire, yet today, while navigating this legacy of empathy, he discovered something far more enduring than the transformative power of profits. It was the eternal influence of aware stewardship drawn from fragile humanity, stitched together one compassionate act at a time. In that quietude, Marcus smiled to himself, knowing the purpose was far from completed, the horizon stretching expansively before him, a reminder that his role as a caretaker had only just begun. Marcus understood now that the true measure of success lay not in quarterly reports, but in the warmth of shared human experiences. These moments of connection acted like seeds, waiting to bloom into revolutions that could weave a tapestry of inclusive growth, redefining what it meant to thrive within a society. His newfound purpose was to nurture these roots, ensuring life sprouted from every corner where his influence reached, a vision of redeemed possibility, of humanity honoring its most fundamental promise to care for one another. As he headed toward the glow of distant city lights, Marcus felt the soothing sound of community harmonizing with his own heartbeat, each step affirming that his journey of redemption and growth was not an end, but an enduring beginning. Months after Marcus's transformative experience at the Modern Diner, an invitation arrived that bore the seal of Fort Unity Shelter, the place where Tyler and Noah found refuge. The event was a celebration of community spirit and resilience, a testament to the efforts made by countless hands, hearts, and now, a corporation with newly awakened humanity. The sun hung low in the sky as Marcus made his way to the shelter. Autumn leaves whirled around him, each gust of wind carving paths through their vibrant hues. With every step, he felt the weight of the journey that had begun on that cold morning at the diner and rippled into corporate boardrooms filled with power brokers who, much like him, had learned to see beyond black and white spreadsheets. He was greeted with a warmth that made stones turn to feathers, his presence welcomed by volunteers whose faces were beacons of genuine appreciation. The interior of the shelter was bustling with joyful preparation, tables lined with colorful tablecloths, plates ready for a communal feast. It was a mosaic of joy and relief, punctuated by bursts of laughter and snippets of encouraging conversation. Marcus Davenport, an amiable voice called, drawing Marcus's attention to a charismatic figure amid the organized whirlwind. It was Jack, the shelter's director, and the one who had reached out to Marcus. They shook hands, Jack's grip firm and resonant of sincerity. His eyes, bright with gratitude, told stories unspoken. "Thank you for coming," Jack said, ushering Marcus towards the stage erected for the occasion. "Your efforts through the diner's new community initiatives have made a world of difference to so many here." Marcus acknowledged the words with humility, finding himself stirred by the gamut of emotions swirling in and around the shelter. Seeing it all in action is more fulfilling than any company report or stock summary, he replied, his gaze taking in the bustle that hinted at a simpler, profound contentment. Marcus spotted Tyler and Noah amidst a cluster of children. They wore new winter coats, gifts from donations funneled through the diner's network, each boy with an energy that belied the tribulations they had endured. For Marcus, those coats were symbols, stitched together with threads of renewed hope and stability. Marcus. Tyler's voice sliced through the ambient chatter as he spotted Marcus. He bounded over, Noah trailing close behind, both boys radiating an infectious enthusiasm that pulled Marcus deeper into the celebratory atmosphere. "Thank you for everything," Tyler declared, hugging Marcus with a spontaneity that obliterated formalities. "We heard from Jack how you've helped the shelter." Marcus hugged back, feeling the weight of Tyler's gratitude sink into his core, solidifying his resolve to sustain the programs initiated. "You and Noah are the reason we're making these changes." "You reminded me of what's truly important," Marcus replied, his words carrying a sincerity that transformed them into a sacred promise. Jack approached with a smile, extending an invitation for Marcus to address the gathering. As Marcus took the makeshift stage, he looked out upon the gathered assembly, a diverse congregation of shelter residents, donors, volunteers, and community leaders. "Good evening, everyone," Marcus began, his voice strengthened by the microphone, echoing across the hall. "Tonight we celebrate the fabric of our community, the resilience, generosity, and shared responsibility that bind us all." His words wove their way through the crowd, each syllable tilting hearts towards reflection. "I've learned much from this journey, a lesson of how intertwined our lives truly are. When we support one another, when businesses, individuals, and communities unite, we build sanctuaries, not just physical shelters but spaces of hope, transitions, and futures." The crowd's response was a ripple of applause, grounded not only in appreciation but in shared vision, a collective nod towards a newly minted path. Marcus continued, "I am grateful to witness our diners play a more active role in this shared mission. It's an honor to contribute to such resilience and courage." As his speech concluded, Marcus moved amongst the attendees, sharing anecdotes, laughter, and pledges of continued support. Tyler and Noah were never far from his side, their presence a reminder of the personal stake every business could, and perhaps should, have in its community. Later, as dusk enveloped the city, a ceremony unfolded where the shelter recognized pivotal contributors. The stage, understated yet profound, became a pedestal of gratitude. Marcus stood alongside shelter staff and volunteers, receiving recognition not as a detached CEO, but as a committed community member. Under the golden hue of twilight, with warm farewells echoing in the air, Marcus experienced a reflection of his true legacy, a union of commerce and compassion, potential repurposed into genuine human connection. He departed the shelter amidst the lingering glow of lanterns lining the exit, each flickering light a beacon of stories yet to be written, a narrative fueled by everyday heroes continuing the ripple he had set in motion. As Marcus navigated the city streets on his way back, every shadow and whisper of wind amplified the bustling life around him. He saw not just a cityscape, but a community living its heart. His past ambitions had conspired to forge an empire, yet today, while navigating this legacy of empathy, he discovered something far more enduring than the transformative power of profits. It was the eternal influence of aware stewardship drawn from fragile humanity, stitched together one compassionate act at a time. In that quietude, Marcus smiled to himself, knowing the purpose was far from completed, the horizon stretching expansively before him, a reminder that his role as a caretaker had only just begun. Marcus understood now that the true measure of success lay not in quarterly reports, but in the warmth of shared human experiences. These moments of connection acted like seeds, waiting to bloom into revolutions that could weave a tapestry of inclusive growth, redefining what it meant to thrive within a society. His newfound purpose was to nurture these roots, ensuring life sprouted from every corner where his influence reached, a vision of redeemed possibility, of humanity honoring its most fundamental promise to care for one another. As he headed toward the glow of distant city lights, Marcus felt the soothing sound of community harmonizing with his own heartbeat, each step affirming that his journey of redemption and growth was not an end, but an enduring beginning. Months after Marcus Davenport's transformative experience at the Modern Diner, an unexpected invitation arrived, bearing the seal of Fort Unity Shelter, the haven that had offered warmth and hope to young Tyler and Noah. The event was set to celebrate community spirit and resilience, a testament to the efforts that merged hands, hearts, and now the newly awakened corporate behemoth his company had become. As Marcus walked towards the shelter that late autumn evening, the low sun cast golden light across the city, dancing off flurries of vibrant leaves. Each gust of wind seemed symbolic of paths newly carved through life's backdrop. The crisp air and the city's hum were both familiar and invigorating, echoing the shift that had ignited within him that chilly morning months ago, when two young voices had opened his eyes to realities beyond his corporate walls. Upon arriving, Marcus was greeted by a wave of warmth. Heartfelt smiles from volunteers met him at the door, turning the weighty stones of his earlier distractions into lighter feathers. The shelter was a vibrant hive of activity. Tables dressed with colorful tablecloths stood aligned for a feast, and a soft buzz of conversation filled the air with an undercurrent of purpose and joy. Marcus Davenport, a cheerful voice chimed through the pleasant commotion, pulling Marcus's focus to a charismatic figure moving adeptly among the clusters of bustling volunteers. It was Jack, the shelter's director, the man who'd extended the life-changing invitation to Marcus. Their handshake was firm and sincere, charged with a gratitude that shone from Jack's eyes that seldom saw clouds but rather opportunities for acts of kindness. "Thank you for coming," Jack said with an ushering gesture towards the makeshift stage erected for the evening. "Your initiatives through the diner's community programs have been invaluable to us here. It's an honor to host you." "I'm the one who should be thankful, Jack. Witnessing this change, brought to life by your hands and those around us, is more fulfilling than any company statistic could ever be," Marcus replied. His gaze traveled across the preparation around them, soaking in the honest bustle that spoke of a simpler, profound contentment born of shared purpose. Across the room, Marcus spotted Tyler and Noah amidst a group of children, their joy resonating like a synchronous symphony with the environment. The boys sported new winter coats, donations facilitated through the Modern Diners network, almost like tokens of the hope and stability that had begun to weave into their lives. Their faces lit up upon spotting Marcus. Tyler's voice, animated and clear, sliced through the ambient chatter, drawing Marcus further into the vibrancy enveloping the shelter. "Marcus," he called, bounding over with Noah in tow. "Thank you for everything," Tyler declared earnestly, wrapping his arms around Marcus in a spontaneous gesture that dissolved the gap of formality. Marcus returned the hug, the sincerity of Tyler's gratitude resonating deeply within him, fortifying his resolve to sustain and expand the programs initiated. "You two are the reason we're making these changes." "It's because of you I remembered what's truly important," Marcus responded, the words imbued with a promise that soared beyond mere obligations, a pledge to his own evolving character. Jack approached with characteristic optimism, extending an invitation for Marcus to address the assembly. Stepping onto the unadorned yet profound stage, Marcus surveyed the assembled congregation, a mosaic of residents, donors, volunteers, and community leaders knit together by shared experiences and collective aspirations. He began, "Good evening, everyone," his voice amplified by the microphone, reverberating through the hall with a clarity prompted by purpose. "Tonight is about celebrating the fabric of our community, the resilience, generosity, and, above all, the shared responsibility that binds us." His voice wove through the crowd, each carefully chosen word planting seeds of reflection. "This journey has taught me much about connectivity, how intertwined our lives truly are. When we support each other, Businesses, individuals, and communities morph into sanctuaries, not just physical shelters, but zones of hope, of transitions, and tangible possibilities. Warm applause rippled across the room, seeded by appreciation and the budding trust in a shared vision. Marcus continued, "I'm grateful to witness our diners actively partake in this mission. It's an honor to contribute to such resilience and courage." Post-speech, Marcus mingled among the attendees, sharing laughter, exchanging anecdotes, and extending vows of ongoing support. Tyler and Noah shadowed him, their exuberance a bright reminder of the personal stake each business entity might embrace in the vast tapestry of community. Later in the evening, as the recognition ceremony unfolded, Marcus took his place among shelter staff and volunteers on the stage. Under the serene glow of twilight, he was an emblem not of a CEO, but of a champion for an inclusive vision, acknowledged as a committed usher of change. In the tender moments of dusk, amidst farewell echoes and the warm hues of lantern lights lining the exit, Marcus felt an expansive reflection of his transformed legacy, a union of commerce and compassion repurposed into sincerely felt human interaction, thriving on empathy. Walking back through the city streets, a blend of shadows and whispers that showcased instead of obscured, Marcus saw the vibrancy of life all around not as a cityscape, but as a living heartbeat of interconnected communities. His investments had been cast into an empire, but today, strengthened by his experiences at the diner and the shelter, he discovered a richer treasure more enduring than monetary gain, the timeless impact of mindful stewardship nourished by humanity's vulnerabilities, crafted from each compassionate act. With heart full of anticipation, Marcus allowed himself a quiet smile, understanding the unfolding purpose was far from complete. The road extending before him was expansive and filled with promise, a poignant reminder of his role as an ongoing caretaker in a narrative of shared growth and respectful redemption. Marcus came to realize that success was no longer measured by reports, but by warmth in these shared human experiences. These connections became seeds waiting to bloom into transformative revolutions, weaving a tapestry of inclusive growth and reframing what thriving truly meant within a society. His newfound endeavor was to nurture these roots, ensuring life sprouted from each corner touched by his influence, an unabashed vision of redeemed possibilities, of a humanity that lives its unspoken vow to cherish one another. As he made his way towards the distant glow of city lights, Marcus felt the sound of community harmonizing with his own heartbeat. Each step a reaffirmation that his journey of redemption and growth was simply an enduring prelude to a more profound story yet to be written.